Annabelle, the doll that stars in the hit horror movie The Conjuring, is a true story told by a pair of young nurses before a man was murdered. The real doll is housed in a mysterious museum founded by Ed and Lauren Warren, two famous American paranormal investigators and authors, inside a glass case with many warnings written on it. According to famous paranormal investigators, the doll has caused two near-fatal accidents, one murder, and a chain of demonic activities spanning nearly 30 years. The first of these bad pursuits allegedly dates back to 1968 when Annabelle was new, and the story is told by two young women, and has been told for years. As the story goes, the Annabelle doll was a gift to a young nurse named Donna from her mother for her 28th birthday, and Donna, who was very happy with the gift, returned to her apartment and showed it to another young nurse named Angie. At first, the doll was adorable, and Donna put her on a sofa in the living room to greet visitors with her colorful facade, but suddenly Donna and Angie began to notice that Annabelle seemed to be moving around the room on her own. The first time was when Donna left her on the living room sofa before leaving for work, and when she came home in the afternoon, she was in the bedroom with the door locked. Their roommates often found papers all over the house that read "Help me" on parchment paper that did not belong to any of the girls in the house. Furthermore, Angie's friend, known as Lou, was in the apartment one afternoon while Donna was out, and he heard a sound in her room, as if someone had broken into, and upon inspection, he found no sign of forced entry, but a doll Annabelle lying face down on the ground. Suddenly, he felt a severe pain in his chest, and looked down to find bloody claw marks on his foot. 2 days later, the marks were gone without a trace. In the wake of Lou's traumatic experience, Angie and Donna seek a solution to their problem, summoning a mediator who tells them that the doll is haunted by the spirit of a deceased child named Annabelle, whose body had been found years earlier on the site of their apartment building. The medium claimed that the soul was benevolent and simply wanted to be loved and nurtured, so the two young nurses felt bad for the child's soul and agreed to allow her to obtain permanent residence in the doll. The Warrens explained that this is where the problem of the young nurses began, as they believed that there was actually a demonic force looking for a human host inside Annabelle, not a charitable force. They emphasized that spirits do not inhabit non-living things such as houses or toys, they inhabit people, and the inhuman spirit can stick to a place or piece, and this is what happened in the Annabelle case. This spirit manipulated dolls and created the illusion that they are alive in order to obtain recognition, which is she was not looking forward to keeping in touch with the doll, but rather having a human host. The young nurses were unaware of Satan's alleged intentions, and in an attempt to rid their home of the spirit of the Annabelle doll, they called an Episcopal priest, known as Father Hagen, who called his superior, Father Cook, who warned Warren and the nurses about it. Immediately, Father Cook attempts to expel this evil spirit, after which, they move Annabelle from the apartment to her final resting place in the occult museum in the hope that her demonic reign will come to an end. After moving her from Donna and Angie's apartment, Warner noticed several other paranormal experiences with the doll, the first being just minutes after she was moved. It has some kind of power, but the bumpy roads they took were too risky. On their way home, Lauren said the brakes either stalled or failed multiple times, leading to near catastrophic accidents, and as soon as Ed pulled holy water from his bag and poured it on the doll, the brake problem was gone. Upon arriving home, Ed and Lorraine placed the doll, noticed that it moved around the house, and when they put it in a closed office in an outhouse, they found it again inside the house. So, the Warrens decided to lock up Annabelle forever, and they had a box made of glass and wood, where they put pictures of prayers, to ensure that the evil spirit and the doll would remain trapped. Since her confinement, Annabelle the doll has not moved again, and some have claimed that the spirit found ways to reach another human host. Once, a priest who was visiting the Warrens' museum mocked Annabelle, and when Ed warned the priest not to mock her, he laughed at him, but on his way home, a fatal crash occurred to the priest, and he claimed to have seen Annabelle in his rearview mirror just before the accident. Years later, another visitor slammed the Annabelle doll's box glass and laughed at how ridiculous people were in believing in her, and on his way home, he reportedly lost control of his motorbike and crashed into a tree, instantly dying. Over the years, the Warrens have continued to tell these tales as evidence that Annabelle had horrific powers, but none of these stories can be proven conclusively. Although Ed and Lorraine Warren have passed away, their legacy lives on, and this story and others are brought to light by their daughter, Judy, and her husband, Tony Spira, whom Ed's father-in-law, prior to his death in 2006, entrusted to continue his work, which includes curating the mysterious artifacts in his museum. These artifacts include the Annabelle doll, a task that Spira does not take lightly, echoing the warnings of his ancestors, constantly warning visitors of all that is in the museum.